Yo, it's Mac from Never Day Nobody's podcast. I know you see the title, so let's get straight to it. Joe Budden just fried Fat Joe. Fat Joe is really out here moving like a cornball. It's bad enough that Fat Joe is already known to be a habitual liar, but now he's entering the podcast space, and he's just looking like a clout-thirsty whore. See, Fat Joe and Jadakiss, they just started a podcast. I think it's called The Joe and Jada Show. And they already on some BS. Really not so much Kiss, but definitely Fat Joe. See, Joe would start off saying, hey, what we bring here is authenticity, and honestly, you're unqualified to even speak on rap and hip hop if you never were a rapper and you never went through the struggles and the trauma that rappers go through.
You know, when you talk about hip hop podcasts, see, I can't salute you if you didn't go and did a show and the promoter beat you for your second half of your money, or you went to a show, the promoter don't want to pay you.
If you haven't been through the farm league of what it takes.
Listen, you can't be sitting up here dissecting the albums, and that's the problem we had with rap since the beginning, since the source mics and all this shit. It's like, yo, you ain't even played the game. You skip my so when I see these certain guys commenting, never had a hit record, never had a album, I'm like, to me, they're not qualified. You know, certainly.
In my head, I'm already thinking, okay, this is kind of a stupid take because most of the biggest commentators are not experts in what they speak of. Skip Bayless, he didn't play in the NBA. Shannon Sharp played in the NFL, but he didn't play in the NBA. Stephen A., I think he averaged 2.5 points in college, so, I mean, we know how that goes. You could keep going down the line. Most people who speak on these things, some of the biggest, were not experts per se in that field. They were not actually playing the sport. They were journalists or they were entertainers. What makes a statement even dumber is they start off talking about the Knicks. Last time I checked, they didn't even play in the Drew League. They ain't playing the Big Three, let alone the NBA. So shouldn't they not be qualified to speak about sports too? Then he said if you don't have a hit, then you're not qualified to talk about hip hop, which is more stupid rhetoric. Podcasting has been going on for years now, and even with these people who aren't professionals, we were doing fine without you. People were still talking about hip hop. It was still going up. So what makes you the authority? In YouTube land, there are no gatekeepers. It's the wild, wild west. So if you feel like you want to talk about this, you don't even got to be that informed. Some people are strictly entertainment. But if you feel like you want to talk about it, you have the right to talk about it. Now, when I heard him say these things, I'm thinking it's just a blanketed statement. It's not at anybody particular. But now, with a little bit more research, it seemed like he was dog whistling, particularly with that comment talking about if you didn't have a hit. Well, that comment didn't fly. It didn't do what he thought it would do. It didn't cause an uproar. So basically, Joe was like, okay, let me be a little more direct. And he says this.
Suspect for me is I'm not going 10th row. I'm not going 5th row. I got to be front row.
So you want all the
because somebody you don't like, your enemy, gonna come sit right at, you know, we call that the Joe Budden seats. You know, them second row.
I don't even got a hood.
Got a hoodie?
I don't even got a hood.
Yo, listen, them second, third row, I can't do it. I gotta sit front row. I'll give you my experience.
What do you call them seats?
The Joe Budden seats. Them shit second row.
Then instantly I was like, oh, okay, I get it now. I see what's going on. You're looking for attention. And so you're trying to get it from the biggest hip hop podcaster in the game. I see what's going on now. See, Fat Joe is looking at it like it's rap. If I want to be mentioned in the conversation of the greatest, I need to take shots at the greatest. So he took shots at Joe Budden. But how did we get here? See, 50 Cent and Joe Budden, they had this little online feud. Joe Budden said on his podcast that 50 Cent needs therapy after 50 Cent dissed Irv Gotti. I made a whole video about it. I'll put it somewhere at the very end so you can see that if you need to catch up. So from there, 50 Cent just started going at Joe Budden relentlessly online. Got to the point where Joe was like, hey, this is fun and games. But if you keep using AI to alter my photos, maybe I don't feel like playing and I get lawyers involved. So from that point on, there was this presumed beef. So fast forward to last week, Fat Joe and 50 Cent, they're sitting courtside at the Knicks game. Joe Budden's right behind them. So this would be the first time Joe Budden and 50 Cent actually crossed paths since they had their little spat online. So Fat Joe is basically trying to call Joe Budden broke because he's sitting behind him. So now I'm starting to look at that whole unqualified rant that he was going on. It starts to look different because you got to look at it like this. 50 Cent had big hits. Fat Joe had big hits. They're both a part of hip hop. Joe Budden had a hit, and it depends on who you ask. Because, according to whoever, Def Jam, Joe Budden just got a gold plaque, and that was recently. So depending on who you ask, it may not be considered a hit, especially in Fat Joe and 50 Cent's eyes. So now when he says people are unqualified, he could have easily been talking about Joe. So now it looks like Joe didn't give him the response with the unqualified talk that he wanted. So now let's just take direct shots at him. Now, me as a fan, I initially was like, I hope Joe Budden doesn't respond to him. This is clearly a ploy just to get some clout and attention. But when Joe Budden did respond, I actually liked the way he went about it.
I'm the walking embodiment of standing on my own, too. And you know that, which is why you're using my name on your newly established platform, trying to get traction, because I'm the best in the biz. I recognize that, too. Lastly, I just don't know what Joe Budden seats mean, and because I have so much relationship equity with Fat Joe, I'll wait for him to tell me. I don't want to assume. On one hand, where I come from, you would want to be seated behind your enemy, if anything.
That's where the logic goes.
That's the part I didn't follow. Yeah.
You wouldn't want to be seated in front of him. So if he was talking about that, I don't really get it, but that's on him. And lastly, maybe Joe Budden seats just means sitting behind somebody you make a lot more than. Until we get clarity on it, we won't really know. But be clear, reimagine how y'all mention my name in some of these conversations. I make a lot more than you.
So now let's have the honest conversation. Hip hop has dried up, and it's been dried up for some time now. That's why now you see rappers are starting to have sports shows, cooking shows, podcasts. They're doing hostings, anything to get a bag, because hip hop is dry. It's dry. The problem for me is these rappers don't love the game. Let me not even just speak to rappers. Let's speak to entertainers in general, because it's not just a rap thing. They don't love the game. There's been so many entertainers that have started podcasts and they have failed miserably because the bag don't come quick like it does when you're in entertainment. Fat Joe is a cornball because he brand new into the field. He's already trying to regulate things and tell us how it should go, and he don't have no credibility. It's like a stepdad coming in day one, kicking in his stepson's room, talking about, hey, it's 5:30 a.m., get up, we got to work out like it's boot camp, and then you go to school at 7. It's like, whoa, you got to chill. Like, don't get me wrong, what you're saying could be absolutely right, but I don't know you like that. You don't have the credibility with me to just be kicking in my door telling me what the rules going to be now. You got to build a cachet before you start barking out orders at people. This is also corny because Fat Joe didn't even need to do this. Fat Joe already has the privilege of being an established rapper, a legend. He didn't need to do this. He's not like a Academics or a Flacco or Danny from the Stop or Homeroom University. He didn't have to start where nobody knows who you are and then you enter a field. He already has it handed to him because he's a star. All Fat Joe has to do is work. Get in there and be consistent. When you do this clout chasing stuff, it looks like you're just looking for a handout. Like you just want some attention. So, hey, let me just connect myself. You a leech. You're just connecting yourself to somebody else to try to soar your way to the top. But that's not going to work here. The only way to really cook in this podcast game is to put your head down and do the work and be consistent. The only person who could get out of doing the work is Carisha. But anyway, but what do I know? I'm just an everyday nobody. Tell me what you think. Is Fat Joe just being a leech after 3 episodes already trying to diss everybody in the game? Or is this just part of the game? Hey, you got to garner attention so your podcast can go. Tell me what you think in the comments. Like and subscribe. I'm out. Peace.